We focus so much on getting the best overdrive, delay, and reverb. We obsess over the minutiae of tone that once we assemble the pedal board of our dreams, we realize there are equally important aspects of the board that we've ignored until the last minute. How are we hooking all the gear up? How are we going to control all of this? That's where we need utility gear. To me, utility gear encompasses the point-to-point transmission of tone from your fingers, through the pedals, and exiting the board. It also extends to any support function that helps you keep playing without disruption. Naturally, controllers like tap tempo, pedal switching, and even tuners come to mind. But there's also something that guitarists don't realize they're missing until they run into a situation: keeping the pedal board illuminated on a dark stage. This is where today's sponsor comes in. Thanks to Rockstock pedals, we have the means to fully support the tone we've painstakingly put together with our pedal collection. Full disclosure, Rockstock sent me all the utility gear that we'll be using today. The flat patch cables to hook up the gear, this solderless patch cable pack which we'll use for those extended crossboard runs, a 2-button aux switch, the TRS cables for expression control, the amazing nano tuner, and last but not least, the bright switch to keep this board lit up when it's dark. Thank you Rockstock for sending me this gear. Do check out their socials after this and participate in the giveaway that they're also sponsoring. That's right, this bright switch could be on your pedal board. Watch on to find out more. Let's build the ultimate utility pedal board using Rockstock pedal gear onto this Pedal Train Fly pedal board. First, let's build the solderless patch cables which we'll use for extended crossboard cable runs. As a rule of thumb, I overestimate the amount of cable I need just in case. There's no need for leftover patch cable anyway. I can anticipate the question of, why don't you use soldered cables for everything? And the snarky comment of, just solder it yourself, dude. In response, I'm in a small apartment with running toddlers, so not only do I lack the space for a proper workstation, molten solder is a chemical and burn hazard I'm not going to risk. Having used several solderless patch cables before, I can attest that Rockstock is the easiest to use. You can feel the connection pin penetrate the cable core, and snapping the patch cable cover is easy. I did encounter some problems in the build process, but it's not that the design by Rockstock is flawed in any way, it's me. I have clumsy fingers, and so I kept dropping the screw even though it's magnetically attracted to the screwdriver. Fair warning, you're going to be dealing with small parts. Unfortunately, family members are falling ill and space is a huge commodity that cannot be wasted in our household, and therefore I need to do this build in my bedroom on the bed as opposed to where I originally wanted to do it, which was on the dining table. Since the kids need to nap, I decided that I will do this build over here, so don't mind the fact that you're spending some time on my bed. Let's go. I've already taken the liberty to attach some of the patch cables already. I wanted to see if these small patch cables were able to bend just a little bit between especially the SL drive and the Iridium. This board is a Pedal Train Fly, which is quite large, and because the pedal board is quite large, it allows me to have some freedom and flexibility as to where to place the pedals without worrying about cramping, especially on tight pedal board rail estate. This is especially important for controllers like the Boss MS3, where I want to have a 2-switch controller at the side here, and I want the expression pedal on the right. And this kind of layout where I got a bit more space and wiggle room is important because I don't want my feet to basically hit any accidental buttons here as when I'm tapping here especially, and I want a lot of space here for my feet to rock the expression pedal without having to worry about knocking into this guy over here. Additionally, if you have spaces like on the rails here, you can always use this as a secondary way of transportation and move the pedal board this way. I'm relying on Rockstock gear for the utility side of things. The nano tuner is going to be up here permanently installed with the Boss LS2. The way I'm going to run this is I'm going to use this as a master mute switch and a buffer, so it doesn't really matter how long my cable runs are. As long as I've got a powered Boss pedal up here, it's going to buffer my signal throughout the entirety of the chain. The bright switch is going to do two things. It's going to, number one, illuminate the pedal board with light, but also it's going to provide power to my Line 6 G10, which I'm hoping it will, because the rated output here is 5 volts and this is also rated 5 volts, and I've used power banks on this before, so if this can charge a power bank and an iPhone, this can definitely take it. Let's first do the control scheme. I'm going to use the TRS cables that were provided, and I'm going to just connect this to control 1, control 2, and I'll connect this. One thing great about Pedal Train is that I can freely move around the cables because of the railing. No other pedal board has come close, and I really love this kind of design. Now I'm going to do the crossboard wiring, which I'm going to use these extra long patch cables, which I just built. This is going down. And this is going to the input of the system right here. Let's think about these Boss MS3s. The MS3 is so, the cable spacing is so tight that I need these kind of tiny, small, low profile cables in order to connect it all. Now to hook up the effects loop, I'm going to use one loop, and that is my ZVEX Double Rock, my SO drive, and that's going into the Iridium as well. So this is loop number 1. And now to have one of the longer patch cables so that I can do this crossboard. I want the output of the Iridium crossboard all the way to this rail here. Return. I'll show this later with a overboard shot, but it's the perfect profile for this very tightly spaced MS3. Last but not least, I'm going to use the outputs, and for that I'm going to go with the longest patch cables I have. Left in, right in. Now I'm going to make sure that this is correct. This is the left in. I'm going to connect it to the left out. Right in, I'm going to make sure that this is to the right out. Last but not least, power. Now, because I don't have any sponsors for power supplies, I'm going to be using a 8-way daisy chain and the one spot. And the reason for that, I'm going to show that to you. Mason Marangella of Vertex Effects said that the pedal requiring the most power and the one that will have the most digital noise, at least likely to have digital noise, should be the closest to the end of the daisy chain. So we're going to be hooking up, this is the front of the daisy chain, this is the back where this is closest to the power supply. I'm going to connect this to the Iridium. I'll go from the bottom because the cool thing about pedal train is that you can hide all the cabling with the rails. Next up, the GI Steve, which is my output from the board. Right switch. Now can this reach? Hoping it can. Okay, just barely. I might have gotten ahead of myself here. Let's try this another angle. The bus doesn't seem to need so much power, so I'm kind of hoping that I can daisy chain all of this and it's all right. Now I need to crossboard this reach. Hoping I can. Good thing about the cable, then I can have some relief for the, at least for the patch cable. Yes, it fits. Up here, the nano tuner, last but not least, to the LS2. Double check the cabling at the bottom because it's going to be one messy pedal board, which actually is not, it's quite decent. It's not that messy. I've seen worse. Okay, time for the big reveal. I wanted to try a daisy chain solution and on a relatively low powered pedal board because I wanted to use this guy. I wanted to use a pedal train Volto in order to power the entire board, and let's see if I can do that. Just one pedal train Volto. Moment of truth. Ha ha ha! It works. I have light. Do I have this charging up? I can put my G10 here, see what it charges up. Yes, it's charging. Now, I'm not stroking the pedals for any weird reason. It's because I want to check if there's any sort of ground loop. And if there's a ground loop or any kind of like discharge, I'll be able to feel it just from the metal pieces, especially this MS3, which is all metal. Time to see the tones for this. Let's go. I love the utility of this board. It has its own light, it powers my G10 wireless, the switches work wonderfully, the nano tuner is fast, accurate, and bright, and as you can hear from the tone demo, there are no tonal deficiencies, with the Boss MS3 doing the heavy lifting of wet effects and modulation. Sure, there are no giant ambient swell tones on this board, but I personally resolved to leave those sounds to my keys player while I concentrate on providing energy to the band. concluding thoughts. I miss building pedal boards. Personally, the building process is sometimes more fun than playing the board, although I know that's backwards for most people. I think it comes from my engineering background where I appreciate how things are put together and seeing the whole system work as a whole. But that's me. What about you? Do you enjoy putting pedal boards together? Let me know in the comments. My 10k sub celebratory giveaway is ongoing and 2 of you stand a chance to win a bright switch on your pedal board just like this one. All you have to do is click on the giveaway link in the description and the pinned comment and finish all the actions prescribed, like subscribing to the channel and following me on Instagram. Every action increases your chances of winning, so make sure you do them all. If you enjoy making pedal boards, do check out the next video where I share my top mistakes that you should avoid when building one. See you there.